they're auto-generated by Trados.
So you're talking about the first snapshot, right?
Yeah.
Where we have the DE, US, reports, review, TM, and TQS something is there, and there's also a project file.
Right. So what we do is we have the source document. If we were going to be creating our own project, we would have the source document on our C drive.
Mm-hmm.
Then we put that into Trados. Trados creates this folder structure wherever we tell it to. We tell it to do it in the subfolders for each month and for each translator. But when we get them from the translation vendor, we will be having a slightly different folder where things will be found, but it will be the same setup. It will be separate from the TM. And we may not even have a TM attached at that point because they maintain it differently than we do. So we may just have the project TM attached to it. So if you'd like me to set up a sample case that does not have the main TM attached, I can do that.
The Excel that is outputted basically from the Trados, right? You guys export and show those Excel file, right? The structure of that and all those rows, columns, whatever, however the data is all structured, it's all going to be fixed, or it will be vary depending upon translation to translation?
Some of it's fixed, some of it's varied. So the top portion with the name of the created at, modified at, things like that, seems to be static, but other things change depending on what the errors are and how many there are.
Okay. Because we are just thinking basically how do we, even if you want to parse that basically that the Excel file that is generated by Trados, basically it's not a fixed format, and how will you even parse it?
Well, you can't. That's why I do macros to search for text keywords. And then go one.
Oh, some kind of a keyword.
What's that?
You search for some kind of a keyword.
Yeah, and then say, look at the column to the right of it.
Okay.
But, Trados does generate reports. And so if you can just mimic the way those reports are generated and just delete the rows that we don't want and rearrange how it's laid out, it's theoretically possible to do it from the report generation, native to Trados.
Yeah, because see, the thing is that we have to see basically how Trados the report generation from inside Trados works. It may be working in a totally different way. So how it extracts the data from the project file, right? So there is some data source for it. So that's inside the Trados, maybe some data model, whatever it is. So it's in the memory or wherever it is, right? So from that data, it generates an Excel file, right?
Right.
Okay. When you open the project, and that's where you run the report, from the data in the project, it is generating that report, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And one of the links I sent at some point was an outside developer who had modified how the reports are generated, and that they created style sheets for their modified reports, so maybe that would show you what direction to go in. I'm not sure.
Can you, because I don't know whether they developed a plugin or what did they do basically?
No, yes, he did. It developed a plugin, and it's called Reports Viewer Plus. So we have it as a plugin, but it does not. It only modifies the analysis report.
Mm-hmm.
It does not analyze the translation quality assessment report.
Okay.
So he didn't do that one.
So that's in a different project, or that's also part of the same project? The report what the other plugin works on.
The plugin can work on any project. It's part of the the main application. Okay. So it's, if you run it, it will appear in the bottom left hand on Trados. You see there where it says welcome.
Reports.
Right. So when you add the Reports Viewer Plus, and let me pull up the instructions for that, you will see that at the bottom.
Okay. Okay. Where can we get the source code for that plugin?
You would have to contact the developer because the developer is not a RWS, so they wouldn't have the code for that.
Okay.
But I'll get you that info.
No, then who developed it basically? It's not from RWS means, then how did you guys get that?
RWS made it available on their
App Store?
internal app store, yeah.
Okay, okay. It's available in RWS App Store, so that's what you guys are downloading and using it.
Right.
Okay, got it, got it.
See this? See, it gives me this message on the load of the Trados Studio. Some plugin is detected, and then if I agree to use it, then it just tells me the memory error. This error.
Let me try to. Can you zoom in at all? I'm having trouble seeing that.
It's asking for the memory for the TM.
Okay, so we have to connect the TM to it then.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can show you how to do that. If you just clear that error, we can go up to project settings and add the TM.
Okay.
So the TM is that this huge dictionary that has already been translated, and it every time you translate something in Trados, it puts it in a huge dictionary if you want. That's called the translation memory. And every time you retranslate the same word the second time, the system tells you, hey, you've already translated that word, and that's the way you translated it the first time, which is your translation memory. Yeah. Here, go down,
Yeah.
go down, go down, go down. Project, yeah.
I just want to see what it looks like in there. All right, so do you see where it says project settings on the top left? So click on the top left, the button on the ribbon at the top. All right, so if you go to language pairs, and all language pairs to the left. Yeah, and then where it says translation memory. All right, so this is where you're going to enable. Don't you click the enabled, but that's the project one. So you want the ISOS German master, and if you click that button on the left, that means you can delete it. So don't click that, but click enabled. So untick that box.
Yeah.
And now click enabled.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't click.
So it doesn't click at all for that. Okay, so now you have to add it. So click use and do file based translation memory. And now you're going to go to the Trados folder and then the TM subfolder.
That's from your. That's from this email, right?
Right. So Trados TM.
Okay.
From the S drive.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to. I think I can have a way to make it easier for you, and so I will just export this as a project, and you can just import it as a project, and that will mean you don't have to do any sort of settings.
Well, but you send me that project file over here, 019000891, right?
Right.
Is
so
that
if you open that in Trados by doing project open, it should have the memory properly connected. So I'm not quite sure why that's not happening. So there's another way you can open projects. So you can see at the top there, remove from list up on the ribbon. So, yeah. All right, so now click on Open Project at the top. And now navigate to the S drive.
Ah,
So the
okay,
first-
okay. Well, that's a different domain for me, because I'm local here. I need to bring that. I'm not on Wise right now.
I see. All right. So what I can do is let me send you this project in a different format that shouldn't need the main TM, and then you should be able to open it properly.
Okay.
So I will do that just right now.
Oh, okay. You will basically package everything.
Right. So and this is actually good because this is how we will be getting it from the vendor as packages instead of projects. So
it will unwrap into the same folder structure probably.
yes.
Oh, that's good.
It just won't be looking for that master TM.
Right. That's good. Okay.
So I just need a second here.
Yeah, sure. One question I had.
Wait, Gregory, should I send that to your top email?
No, send it to my not top email, internationalsos.com without top.
Okay. All right. This takes a couple minutes, so if you all have any questions while
Yeah, I have a question. That was a file. So you send when you send that file, the Excel file with your result of your macros. It was in the same. Okay, 1 second. Let me pull out. It was the same basically structure, but it's not exactly. The format was not like nice format. Okay, where can I want to find
correct.
but I was gonna ask if that's okay.
It is. It is for the purpose of data analysis. It does not need to be pretty. It just needs to have the data in the right spots.
Oh yeah, okay.
I mean, I guess I should let Gael answer that, but Gael,
I don't really care about the aesthetics at this point. Really.
Well, I thought you're using it as a report.
it's a raw data source.
You know, the thing I would publish are the charts, but not I would never publish the raw data.
So, hi everyone. So the other thing is like, as long as we can tabulate it and build reports and analyze, etc. You know, to me that's good. So I'm not sure which file we're referring to when it said it doesn't look pretty.
So this one looks pretty. That's the final target file, good file.
Okay.
Yeah, that's us. Yeah.
That's we.
Yeah.
Okay, and but there was the one you're using in the middle.
Are we talking maybe about the merged, where we take every single scorecard and we merge it into one file through the macro?
No, Ben, I think what he's talking about is I created macros to extract from the Trados scorecard. Yeah, a semblance of our current scorecard with all the data that's available in the right positions, but it doesn't have the logo or the formatting.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, basically maybe the only comment that I can make here is more like that, you know, overall or ultimate objective, or that what do we call it, bird's eye view, in the sense that the idea is we've got two different outputs. How can we adjust one or the other, you know, the Trados outputs, so that we can merge, you know, what do we do? through this scorecard that we have Abby showing now with what comes out of Trados, right? I guess that's clear.
Right. Yeah.
Repeating.
Yeah. So the question was how important is the formatting nicety and logos, etc.
No, with this at this point it really doesn't matter. At this point we just want to have the data the right data extracted and calculated.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be usable.
Okay.
I don't care that much about pretty, honestly. We can build pretty charts of it, pivots and stuff.
No, well, for me, I don't know what constitutes usable. You're using it, but I don't know how. You're running macros against it, or you're visually looking at it. That's how you use it. Usable
Right,
means...
So if I were to try to give you another that I'm sure Abby has provided that to you, but maybe it could be in different words a little bit. So you see this scorecard that Abby is showing right now. For every case/translation, right, we define a case, a medical record that comes into the system and we translate and deliver, right? So every case that we audit, because we don't audit every case, we have like 100,000 cases, but we audit only about 5%. So Gael, Abby, and team, take a subset of the cases and they do an audit. And let's say they take case 1. As they go through the review of that translation/case, they complete this scorecard, right? And they complete from, the metadata, if I may call them, in rows 3 through 6. Not all of that is metadata, because some of it is calculations, right? But some of it is you enter the case number, you enter the document type, the date, the language, vendor, linguist, second linguist, QA auditor name, number of pages, number of words, right? And then what you have to the right under columns H and I are calculations in rows 3 through whatever that is, 5, right? And then starting in row 9, they capture every single error that they might find and correct, right, with the data across those columns. So we do this for case 1, then we do it for case 2, case 3, and we have, about maybe 500 a month, Gail? I don't know if that's correct, but let's say it's 500 a month, right? So we have 500 of these emails, 500 of these files in a month, because we have one for every medical record that we audit or where we assess the quality of a translation. So then through that macro that Gail and Abby have been referring, we go and take the data that is in every single one of these 500 files for that month and merge it into one file.
Okay.
You say, why are we doing that? Because, each single file that you see here, each scorecard, gives us a view about the quality of that individual medical record/translation.
This file.
Then we want to see the bigger picture for the month, and we want to say, okay, as we merge all these 500 files into one single file, then we can tabulate and say, okay, let's see what is the score, right? Because the score is one of these. Let's see what's the score for X language for the month. How about the other language? We can calculate the score for each language, right? We can go and say, okay, how does severity show? What is the severity distribution? For example, the severity of the errors, we have critical, major, minor, etc. We can say what percentage of all the errors across all these 500 translations we have for critical, we have for this and for that. We can look at what are the categories, or what is the topology, what type of errors are we seeing, and we can sort of break it down. We have the month, and we break it down, let's say, by language. We can break it down by vendor when we have multiple vendors. We can break it down by topology, by all these columns that you see there, or we can look at by linguist. We can say, okay, what is the score for each linguist? So basically, by merging it into one file, we can do the analysis, draw the insights, and drive decision-making based on what we see for the assessment that we've done for the quality of translations over that month. I hope that makes sense into the purpose, because I do believe it's important to understand what we are doing with it.
Right. Yeah, I got it. Okay. So what's important is the numbers, not the reporting look of it. I see.
Yeah, the values in these fields and the ability to tabulate, if I may call it, to build reports so we can slice and dice it and look at it from different angles to draw insights and then drive decision making, for example, quality plans for the vendors, etc.
Maybe we got that template that you exported from the Trados, right? So can you get us a few more flavors, because we were thinking basically that format is actually fixed basically, where you can try to figure out basically what cell is what kind of stuff, because we have only one. So is there a way, can you send us a few more variations, so at least we can look at the template, even if you want to pass that? So we want to just understand basically how that structure is basically, because it's not like looks like a fixed structure from my previous question, right?
Right, so you want me to send different scorecards from different cases that might have...
Yeah. Few flavors, so where basically, so this, because we want to basically see, if you see row R2 is this data point basically in this case, basically, but actually in the other case, it's somewhat different, so we want to see basically how it is structured. So is there a way, generic way to parse it kind of stuff?
Yeah, I can create some more samples of different types.
Right. So various flavors, so at least we can understand it, no? So what are all the ways basically it generates the output, so at least we can understand the flavors it generates.
Now, do you need them in all formats or just in Excel or HTML or
No. So you generate that in Excel, and then if possible, maybe if you can export that maybe into maybe an XML.
Yeah, well, Trados, you can export it in 4 formats.
Right. So one is Excel basically, so where we want maybe 2 or 3 things, and then maybe we want the equivalent XMLs for the same Excel data.
All right, so you want Excel and XML, so no HTML and no MHT.
No, I don't think so. We need it, Gregory, right? We just want to know how the data is structured, right, Gregory?
Yeah. Excel is enough.
Yeah, and maybe XML.
No need XML, just Excel.
Okay.
This.
So I'm afraid that the file I was trying to send you as a package, I can't because one of the documents has already been finalized, so I'm trying to create another one for you quickly.
No problem. Just another question I had. Vendor sends you the Trados project. You then fix it. You send it back to them. They send it back to you, and then you export into Excel, right? Does it do any translation on a way of exporting? Does it calculate or translate anything?
So we get the file from the vendor, we make changes to it, we correct the translation, it tracks those changes. We also add comments within it has this feature where you can categorize the errors and add comments, so we do that.
That's all in Trados Studio, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want maybe to show the QA?
Do you want me to do the process of that?
Yeah.
And
Show you.
would it be sort of semi-accurate, Abby, to try to draw the comparison? Think of a Word document, for example, when somebody reviews it, makes edits, corrections to it, right? In red mark with track changes on, adds comments there as well. And imagine if you could use Word to export a report that tells you, these are the changes that have been made. These are the type of changes that they are, for example, type of errors. And then you ask it to also calculate based on the number of changes and the severity of those changes, what the score is. I'm going a little bit too far maybe, but the idea of, Trados does much more, but what we're talking about here is as we do a review and correction of the translations, similar to you do a review and correction of a Word document, for example, somebody might send to you, a process document or whatever, what Trados has inbuilt is this ability to give you a report of those revisions, the category of revisions, and many other things, right? So it's just that output now that, okay, as we said earlier, how do we merge it? Go ahead if you have it ready, Abby.
Sure, I'll share my screen. So tell me when you can see my Trados screen.
Yes.
We can.
Okay. Let me just. All right. So if I had been sent a project from the client, I would open it here in the project view, double click it. I would open it for review. And then I go to review. If assess quality isn't already selected, I would say assess quality. Then I make change or two. Now, let's see, we want to show the markup. And after I've made a change, I then edit the TQA, I give it a category. So I'll say it's a mistranslation, I'll give it a severity. And say okay. And let's say I did that to 10 different sentences. Then that would, in the section of the scorecard that's output, there would be at least 10 different lines of corrections. So then when I'm done with all of that, I say complete review. Then it gives me this little window where I can manually change whether it's a pass or a fail. I can tell the document type. I can type in comments. So if I put in my name, so people know that I did it. And then I click finish. And then the last step I do is I run a batch task called Translation Quality Assessment. And then if I go to reports, I will see the report I run.
What we sent you, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the report, how it looks, how it's displayed in Trados. So this summary top part here, it's hard to read, I'm sure, but this doesn't change. The totals might change if there's more than one file. The scoring shouldn't change, that's the same in every one, and we don't want to see that. The severities occurrence will change depending on how it is scored and what categories are applied to the errors. And then down here, this section right here won't change except for where I type my name. So this is the output of that box where you can type comments. You know, this could be a little longer, but it shouldn't change anything in this section. And then, of course, the list of errors and the corrections with the formatting, the font formatting is different for everyone. So then I could say save as, and this is what I did. I saved it as Excel. So I'll just call it Trados scorecard case number, whatever it is. Then I would save it, and then I would upload that to Teams for Gael to analyze the data.
And I want to run the macro through every single one of those files at the end of each month, basically.
So the plugin that we were talking about earlier, the Reports Viewer Plus that the outside developer created,
if I may step in quick, Gail, when you said you ran the macro against every single one, maybe just being picky on the wording, but you have all the files, let's say 500 files in a folder, and you just run the macro through that folder, right?
Exactly.
Right. It's not like you hit it 500 times. So
No, the macro opens, the way the macro is written at the moment, it says open and open those 500 files individually and extract the data into one single file.
Yeah, you run it once, but the macro goes through every single file and
Exactly.
pulls the data and gives it to you in an aggregated file.
Exactly.
All right, so these here are the reports that can be generated using this plugin, and so they have different native reports that Trados can create for other phases of setting up a project and things like that, but it does not have one for translation quality assessment. So that is why this person might be a resource, but they haven't done it for the type of report that we need, which is this one.
Okay.
Is this a bit clearer, Gregory, or
Yeah.
you still have a question for us?
That's better. So you're sending.
So if you have multiple files, so this section is going to be totally different, right? The view what you're showing now is going to have all the information for each of those files, right?
That is correct, but we will, the way the translations, it's rare that there would be multiple files.
In the same project, right?
Yeah, right. But it is possible.
We are assuming that maybe in each case we'll have one document and that one document gets translated and comes back and there'll be only one section. It's not like that, right?
I mean, there's a chance it would not be like that. Yeah, it would be. Let's see. I think the TQA report is per document.
This you can.
So yes, it would only have one file on the scorecard.
Okay.
This.
So if you have, it should have only one scorecard per document here, right? That's what. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this you can export, right?
So yeah, right. This is, I would just do save as and export it as one of these formats.
Okay, you can only save it.
Right.
Okay.
So if I'll show you, I'll save this as test. Let's put it in an easier to find folder. Well, I'll leave it here. This is about 404. Let's see. All right, it did not save it to this folder. Where is it? Here it is. Nope. That is.
It was a different folder.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, this should be the same thing, basically. So this is basically the same thing. So this is what it looks like in Excel. Can you see the Excel file?
Yes.
And so it is, one of the problems is that they name this tab a temporary name. I'm not sure how that's assigned. So this has to be changed because Gael's macro that scrapes data from each individual scorecard is looking for a worksheet that's called scorecard.
Okay. That's okay.
So
it's the first tab.
part of the macros that I created was doing that, was renaming that. Actually, what I did was I renamed this as Trados TQA scorecard and then inserted a new one and called that scorecard so that the data could be extracted from this, but that shouldn't apply to what you're doing.
So your markers goes into this file, renames this tab, and then looks at the corresponding cell and tries to fetch it into different format, right?
Into it, right. So it also creates a separate worksheet that we call scorecard, and then the macro says, okay, go look at this renamed one where all the Trados layout is, find, create it at, move one cell over, copy the date, and paste it into the proper field in the other document.
Okay. And what was the problem with that?
Well, the problem is we don't want the individual auditors to have to fiddle with macros, because they would have to do this every time that they generate this report, or Gael would, but really we individual auditors would, because we have to generate a score and a pass-fail to put into CRM right at the time of doing this.
Oh, okay. So it's just another layer of complexity. If you have a macros Excel, separate Excel macros somewhere, utility, which would work on the files like this, also stored in some folder, and that.
Right. So what you? That's why I have. Let's see. The score calculator that contains all of the macros. So the auditors would have to open this file every time, since it contains the macros. And then here I can just run the first one for you. And you would have to do, let's see, save workbook and add sheet.
What are we doing here, Abby? I'm sorry. Are you calculating the score, or what are you doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, I am. So the first step is to rename this TQA scorecard, and then this one's scorecard, and then the next one does the headings.
Okay.
You've done a really good job, Abby, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, Gregory and Anand, what I see here is, similar to what we have in the Excel, that there's a calculation, a formula for the score, for example. The translator or auditor doesn't need to do that calculation. The formula is there. It just goes and pulls from the error severities and points, penalty points, and just calculates the score. So Abby, that's what these are.
I just ran the formulas macro, which puts them in. So if it calculates the penalty points based on what's in the severity column, it gives me the calculation we use for pass-fail and for percentages. It gathers data from row G through H to do penalty points. I don't know why I've got H in there. Fix that. But in any case, then just continue to run them. So if you want to.
This list of macros, but they can be combined in one single macros, just a long procedure.
Yeah, they can. I was doing them separately, so it would be easier to troubleshoot if any of them are.
Right, but for the analyst who is not like doing the development, he can just have one single.
Well, each individual auditor, every time they do a scorecard, could
Auditor.
Yeah, they could press a button and do this in one or two macros.
So let me step in for a second. The way I'd see it is the fact that Abby went step by step, etc. It's not that we are saying we want it done that way, right? We'd have to defer to you, the expert, saying like, hey, there's a better way of combining it in one single click or whatever that is, that action. It goes through the motions and does all these things, right?
So we want you to develop a plugin that not only does this layout, but also does the proper calculations.
Bring up that list of macros, please. Basically, there is a certain order of their execution, right?
Right. So I gave you the order in the email, but I was going to rename everything A, B, C, D as a prefix, so it would be in the right order.
Oh, okay. Email has order of. Okay, yeah. We need the order of them, because we can reprogram it basically in an add-on in Trados.
Okay. If you can do that, that would be great. So these.
But that's a code of it. So we need the consequence of those, and creating single macros could be intermediate step and not just to play around.
Yeah, well, I've sent you this scorecard, the file that has all the macros, the score calculator macro tests.
Mm-hmm.
So you have access to all of those, but they need some tweaking so that they're consistent. So when you combine them, they're using the same variables and things like that. But I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Yeah, that's.
Abby, one question. So if the format of the output of that Excel is not exactly similar, then all these again macros will not work correctly, right? So your put of this macro means what the output of the Trados is now looks like consistent only, right? That's why you're able to extract all those cells and put it here, right?
Well, I mean, my macros, I didn't say go to cell B8 to get the date. I said look for created at and go over one column and get the date.
Why?
Which is smart because if you have more errors and then it's going to be changing constantly. So you're not looking at a value, you're looking at a keyword, yeah.
Right. And so for the file name, it is one cell below a cell that says file.
Okay.
But I had to, for that macro, since we have another cell that says files, I had to say, look for a cell containing only file and go one below it. So you have to know what sorts of things are on this output from Trados, but you can easily do it once you know that.
But you don't want to address the absolute position of the cell because maybe another file will come with the different positions, right?
Exactly, because you've got different number of errors. Yeah.
Number of errors.
But even up here, this might change a little bit. It shouldn't, but I had something where it did seem to change a little bit, so I changed all these to not being absolute cells.
Number of errors is just a number. We're talking about the cell position.
Right, exactly. Well, the number of errors is not a number. It's a list of the errors. I think that's what that.
I see. Okay.
So,
but that's on the bottom. Okay.
But it's also here because it lists it in terms of severities. Yeah. So if a category only has minor, not minor and neutral, then it will only have one line here. Okay. So this changes too.
Okay.
Abby, can you please scroll to the top for a second? I had a question on that. So can we say that, let's say, rows 1 through, let's say, 10 are static? They're going to be consistent through every file that is an output from Trados?
Yes, although as I just said, there was one test I was doing where it was not finding the date correctly. And so I think we can assume that at some point the Trados developers will be tweaking this as well, and we shouldn't use absolute cell references ever.
I see. So date, you said, was that the U date?
Created at date, because that's the date that it was opened in, we opened it. So that would be the same as today's date.
What was it split to two cells or something?
What, the date that I found was in the wrong spot?
Yeah.
It looked at it, it went to a different, I had said it was in position B8, I think, and it was in B9, and I can't remember what was inserted above it to make that happen.
Okay, well, maybe there was an extra line, and the first line was, here we have number 1. Line number 1 is blank, but maybe there was no blank, something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that. Okay. I mean, it shouldn't be. It should be the same on every one as far as I can tell, but I don't think we can count on that.
Okay.
So maybe you can generate few flavors of that variation for maybe different translations, at least to see basically. So if something is going off, or how is it kind of stuff with multiple errors, as you told, one file can have maybe 2 categories, one can have 3 or 4 critical categories kind of stuff, so at least a few variations, so at least we'll have an idea of how the output file is generated.
Sure. So Gael's macro that she runs on all of, on a folder full of these scorecards will, say starting at row A9, gather all of the data from these rows down here, and also separately do the metadata at the top. So I know that's clear to you all, I just...
Right, because I think that scorecard is almost like a fixed format, right? Where you need to fill in all those data, so the other macro is actually built on that structure.
Right, so the only thing that's not fixed is the data that's put in these rows starting at A9, and I'll just run those macros quickly so you can see what that looks like, because Gael, I'm not sure you've seen that. So it takes over the blank lines in between each error and also the formatting. And then you've got to, another thing that's different is typology is got in one cell.
Yeah, you have to split it with a hyphen or something, right? I think that's what the other document said, something like that, right? You take the value, split it with a hyphen, and then put it into 2 cells.
Yeah, they merge typology and category into one.
Right, so I have that as 2 separate steps, so there I've just extracted it.
But that's something we could do in the original macro. We could merge them the same way, so that's one less macro to run, right?
Certainly that is possible. So now that I have my penalty points in there, this is calculated. So the individual auditors, after they've done their auditing and generated the report, would need to make sure that they get this info, the penalty, or sorry, the score and the result. And then we can be done with our part of this, and then anything else can be done by Gael during her monthly analysis.
But the idea is that I will run the existing macro through these ones as well.
So Gael, your macro may be needed to be tweaked to be able to get the formatting of this carried over to you as well.
Okay, yours is different macro.
Yeah, so Gael has a separate, she has a different Excel file that she opens and directs toward the folder where she's keeping all of the scorecards, and then runs a macro that collects all the data from those scorecards. So that's a separate operation, a separate macro, a separate workbook, Excel workbook.
Yeah, I was wondering about it. There are 2 files with 2 different sets of macros. Okay.
Yeah.
That's because we, as I said to you last time, because of the static nature of the metadata at the top and the unstatic nature of the errors from row 9, right? We've put 2 tabs. One tab which is the scorecard, and the other tab which is the error tab. And that's the way we tweaked the system. But we could, I mean, it's now if we can replicate, you know, we should be able to run the same macro for both formats, right? Whether it comes from Trados or whether it's done in the existing scorecard. As you say, we may have to merge typology and category, and we may have to tweak this, what do you call it, the font or the,
to make sure that it pastes with the font formatting.
Perhaps what you're saying is that if you manage to combine those multiple macros, the first macros, then and then we can add the another macros to the end of them.
Right, we can tweak the macro that's in Gael's,
Add Gail's macro to yours.
yeah. Well, no,
Exactly.
because it's a separate process that's done at a different time.
Oh, okay.
It's done once a month.
Right. As of now, the process will generate one Excel running all these macros in this structure, and then that's what will be feeding Gail's process, right?
Yes, that will be feeding the data into her process.
Right. Right.
Okay.
So I think what we're trying to say is that, if I understood correctly, Abby, is that Abby built about 15 macros from what we can see, or 20.
Uh-huh.
If we could combine them all to have one single one.
Gael, I can do that, yeah.
Then we will get to that format, which is very close to the existing scorecards, right? And then we can just tweak our existing macro, and then have both formats extracted with one single macro.
Well, Gael, you're also going to have to, in some way, download a report from CRM to get the original language, the original linguist name, certifying linguist name, auditor name, and number of pages.
So
I
there's
wonder if that's not something we can add the translators to do.
Sure, we can,
Because-
but at this point, we're giving them almost more work than they're doing now. So I think if
Well, not if it's one button to press. If they export save as and press one button, that activates all your macros.
But really, what they would like to do is just have this report pop up in Trados. And then they can take the pass, fail, and the score, put those into CRM, and then not do any of this. I mean,
No,
really.
I understand that. I understand
Abby,
that. Of
I'm
course.
sorry, the question. So that report that you said we should generate from CRM to extract certain values from there and put in every one single of these scorecards, do you know why can't Trados do it? Doesn't see the language somewhere, for example, if we take that as an example?
Yeah, it's nowhere in the Trados project data is the language, the original, any of those fields. None of those fields are in
how
there.
can the language not be part of it?
It's, well,
That's
it
the
is.
core
I
of what Trados
mean,
works
you can
with.
see the languages associated with a project because you select those when you set up a
Right.
project, but I don't know how that would be extracted. It's not native to
Okay,
this.
so with that said, then one thing that, it sounds like these discussions, for example, are very helpful in brainstorming, but I'd really ask that we separate where we have gone into solution mode, Abby, versus requirements mode, right? And what I mean by that is, having Gregory and Anand, for example, understand this is what we'd like to do, from a business perspective and business logic. And then in the solutions mode, the technical mode, for example, you have already taken steps, write some macros, which is very helpful to show, to try to bridge that gap, between the business requirements and the solution mode, but more as an examples. And I'd hope that we all agree that, all right, let's defer then to Gregory and Anand, for the expert solution to that, right? Here's how we thought it could be solved, but you guys are the experts. Tell us how we could do that. And if I go back to this example about, let's say, language is missing from this output, if we are doing a plugin or something, maybe wishful thinking, but can't we have this output from Trados be modified so that it pulls the language? The language is for sure somewhere in the system. Can it be pulled or not? Maybe not, but so that's why I wouldn't assume for sure that, we cannot, we have to manually go put it in, right? It is somewhere there in the system, in the tool. Can we pull it out? Maybe the answer is no, again, but I wouldn't rule that out.
Absolutely not. But since there's definitely other data elements that you can't get from Trados and will have to get from CRM, you can also get language from there as well.
Okay, and maybe that's a very good point, because you might say, like, if it is too much effort to pull language out of the system, to put it in this report, in this output, you know, there's no point in doing that if we have to do some manual effort anyway, because there is some values, some data, that there is no way you can pull out of Trados, right? And maybe that list, that you might have a list of what those values are. For example, what is one good example, Abby, that there's no way you can get out of Trados?
It's this one, original language. Well, wait, that's a question mark, but original vendor, original linguist, certifying linguist, auditor name, number of pages.
Okay, so vendor name. So there's nowhere in the project metadata where we capture vendor name?
It could be added in.
Okay.
Yes, it could. So we could ask TLD to put that as.
And maybe same thing, linguist name?
No, there's no field for that.
But there might be the author of the document. That's the linguist name. Somebody is author of that document.
Anyway, so maybe Abby, it's not possible to pull these out of Trados, or first they have to be entered in there at some point, right? And then being able to pull them out. Just my point is, let's not rule out the automation, because we all want to avoid any manual effort, if at all possible, right?
Yeah, no, it would be great if we could get all of that out of there.
Trados is not connected to CRM directly, right? Somebody enters this manually into Trados, right?
If you can connect it for us, that would be amazing. Just kidding.
No, it does
Short
exist.
answer, no.
No,
They have a Salesforce. They have a Salesforce plugin, Trados, but it costs a fortune.
well, but it's to do translations. It's not to necessarily do this.
Yeah, it's for a translation management system approach. Yeah, like the
Or to
connector.
translate content in CRM that's unrelated to.
We didn't explore that part yet. We just don't know if Trados is connectable to Salesforce.
I know that for a fact that it is, Gregory. Well, when I say for a fact, is because I used to work with a company that owned Trados, and now they merged, but connectors was their biggest thing, not just for a tool like Trados, but also the other translation management systems that they have. And the focus were Salesforce, AEM, what else was there? I think there were some of the content management systems or CRM systems that were the most dominant out there. Definitely those were the first connectors that they built, and they built about 200 connectors over a 2 period of time.
Okay. Well, yeah, we can explore that later, because this may be a second step of the project, right? First we wanna finish the first phase, which would be all these 50 macroses, combine them, and then maybe make a plugin, and then there is another question if we can connect to Trados to CRM and pull some additional data. Well, that could be a second step after that, right?
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Well, it needs research, because your step, Gail's step, goes even after that.
Yes, absolutely. It's the last step.
Mm-hmm.
So then, and others, just this is where TLD, when they create the project, they could create their own list and put their name here, and we could extract the data from this field, which is in every project. So there is a way to get who the translation vendor is, as long as they have put that, manually chosen that.
Yeah, and can you look at the author of the documents? I mean, there must be a name of who is translating that, right?
So if you look at a document, let's see. each individual line has, when it's added to the memory, it will have who last modified it, what their code was. But for each individual case, unless it has been sent as a project package, and if I create a project package, can't do it with this one, but when you create a project package, which is just a way to email it to someone, you assign it to a person. So you can assign it to a reviewer, you can assign it to a translator. So it would be embedded in that, but if TLD is not using that process, then the data wouldn't be there except at the individual translation segment level.
What's TLD?
That's our vendor.
Ah.
Our main vendor. So I'm just opening a TM so you can see where there's system fields and custom fields. And so after a translation is done, this is the database that saves the translations. So we have the German over here on the left and the English over here on the right. And then the system fields show last modified by, and TLD exported this, so they're there. But it could also have individual, whatever code Trados has assigned to the individual translator could be there instead. Or it could be a name. But it wouldn't necessarily be the same as we have on the attestation page with the certifying linguist and the original linguist.
That may tell us something actually. That may tell us that it's not necessarily who signs it, who does it.
Right, and then we should allow for that possibility as well. I mean, it really, we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here. We can explore this more later on, but I'm
trying to get this translation idea. What gets translated? Tell me in general, what is, so one document is translated to a different language, right?
Right, so we have medical records in multiple languages, and they all get translated into English.
Okay, there are translators who do it?
Yes, so we subcontract to translation vendors. Currently, we just have one, TLD.
Uh-huh.
They send so they download files from CRM. They send them to their freelancers. They get them back from their freelancers. Then they send them to a freelance editor who checks the file, and it gets sent back to them again. And so everybody, for most of these files, is using Trados, so any changes that are made along the way are saved to the memory, the project memory. Then TLD sends it to us, the ones that are selected to be audited, the 5%, they will send the projects to us. We will make our edits to them, generate the scorecard, and then we will upload them to CRM, a finalized version of the output, which would be a Word file of the English document, of the English translation. But we also would upload the Trados file to send back to the vendor so that they can update their translation memories as well. And share the results with their language.
Why is it called translation memory instead of translation?
Because every time you reopen a new document, the system looks to see if that word has already been translated, and if it has already been translated, it suggests it, and it says, hey, you've already done that word, I've got 100% recognition here, and then you accept or you reject. So that's why it's a memory.
Thank you, Gail. Evie, do you have a quick bilingual view?
Yeah.
Might be really good visually to show quickly what I mean by that.
Sure. So on the left we have, well, this is the attestation page, but so we have the German on the left, the translation on the right, And you see here it says 100%. That means when this document, with this project was created and we attached the memory, Trados, as a preliminary step, checked the memory to see if any of these, they're called segments, had matches. And this had 100% match, and so it just populated it automatically. So we don't have to do that work. There's some 99% matches, and so those we look at and we decide whether we want to modify them or not.
You mean?
Can I go back to the basics a little bit, Abby? Sorry, Gregory.
Uh-huh.
So keep it there, Abby. So look at this. For example, on one side you have the foreign language, Gregory, on the other side the English translation, right? This is work in progress, what we're seeing. But once this gets completed, right, and it's finalized and good and great to go, think of this as this goes in a dictionary. But it's not a dictionary at the word level, it's at the segment level, and this is how segments are defined. Could be a sentence, could be a paragraph, could be a word group. So basically we build a repository of all the previous translations. That's the memory.
Oh.
You can think of it of a dictionary of sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, word group by word group, etc.
So when it says on line 30, it says Dr. Med Bernd Nudek. It remembers that somehow, even if you close this document, right?
Right. Yes.
It saves it somewhere.
Right.
So, and we leverage those both for efficiency and for consistency. You can imagine when we have translated, I don't know what so far, but for OP2 or for, it's close to 500,000 pages, close to 500,000 pages, right? Now, we cannot use this tool for every single translation because of issues with the shape and form of the original documents, because some of them are not a good fit for processing through this CAT tool. For wherever we have been able to use it, and I think the vendor might have used it for about 50% of the content, we are building that huge repository of previous translations that can be reused through this tool. Reused in the sense that when I get a new document to translate, the system segments it the way Abby is showing it here, and shows to us then saying, like, here's all the segments on the left-hand side that I find in this new document, but hold on a second, 27, it's just an address, but I see it exactly in a previous translation, so you can just adopt it 100%. Row 29, I see it similar. It looks like in one case, I don't know why 99% that one, for example.
It probably wasn't bolded, so if there's formatting difference.
So maybe in the original, in the previous translation that we have translated and has gone into the memory, let's say it was not bolded. But I have it here in a new document to translate. The only difference I might have to make, or the only change I might have to make, is make it bold. Or I might say, who cares about it? Just leave it, not bold it, right?
So 99% means match between that German word radiology here and the memory has also
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a memory, because it remembers it.
Yeah,
And so the client, so our vendor has a version of the memory, but it's not updated with our changes because we don't share a live version, and so we have to send back these changes so that they can then open this document and save the changes to their version of the memory.
Oh, so you correct it on the right side and you send it, and that updates their memory.
Yes.
And this percentage gets into your report as well, right?
No, this is actually, there are other reports that do tell you, like, so you can run a report that analyzes a German text and says, okay, 15% of these are 100% matches and 10% are only 85% matches, things like that. But that's not part of our scorecard in our scoring of the errors. So that how close it matches to the memory is a separate data collection step that we don't care about. All we care about is how we categorize the errors that they make.
Okay, what's the error?
I'm sorry, Gregory. Sorry, let me step in. There are two very distinct tasks. The translation task that the vendor performs, right? And the auditing task that we do, basically assessing their quality, and in the process we make changes, right? So if you think of the translation task, and that has many sub-steps to it, but in a very simplified way, the vendor translates a document, let's say from German into English. And they can do the same thing and build this bilingual file that you see here in the screen and say like, okay, we've got a memory, I've got a new document to translate, let me process the document through this tool, let me leverage the memory wherever I can, and the tool goes through the memory and gives them this output. And let's say then they go and, wherever it's 100%, they review it, it's good, confirm it, no changes. Wherever it's 99% or 90%, let me see, what change do I need to make? So basically you partially reuse the memory. And some of it could be 0% that I don't find in the memory. Let me translate it. So they complete the task, they deliver it. Then we take it and we open that same file, correct me when I deviate, Abby. So then we go to the second that I call distinct task. Now we take the translation that has been delivered, not every one of them, but about 5% of what they deliver, and we say, let's assess their quality. And in that process, we can make these changes and corrections and revisions, and for whatever we revise or correct, we send it back to the vendor, so we close the loop with the feedback so that they have the corrections for future use, and then those corrections go into their translation memory. So I'd really be clear logically in our mind about there's a translation task that the vendor performs with his tools. There's the auditing task that we perform, with this tool. And it's not just with this tool. We have another way, the manual review as well. That's why we need to maintain both approaches, right? The audit and the reporting through Trados for whenever translations are done through Trados, but also the auditing and the reporting through that Excel file when Trados is not practically feasible, if we want to say, to be used. Does it make sense?
Instead, we'd make the changes in the Word document.
Right, exactly. It's markup, right? There it's more old-fashioned. So we have to maintain the old-fashioned way because some of the documents are in such a shape that Trados cannot process, or it beats its purpose because you lose any efficiency or anything to process in Trados. Let's say there are images, tables, bad scans, whatever, handwritten documents. It's a nightmare, to process it for Trados. Basically, junk in, junk out, you might get there. So we say, like, ignore Trados, just do it old-fashioned way.
But you use human translators, right?
Yes.
Why is translation not automated, like Google Translate?
Because it's rubbish. It's rubbish.
It's rubbish that we have too much PHI.
It's the short answer to that is it's explicitly prohibited in the contract. So even for this one, Gregory, I had to write a document for the government during transition and explain to them that this is not machine translation. This is translations done by humans that we store in a repository, the translation memory that we leverage through Trados, for example, that we store in a memory that we reuse. And we reuse, still the translators are supposed to review them. For example, in that 100% match, that Trados tells me, like, hey, this segment, this sentence that you have in this document in front of you that you need to translate, I find it exactly the same in the memory. So you can just use that translation. Here's a translation. I'm still supposed to review that. Yes, it's 100% match. It's exactly there. But let me review it in context. Does it fit? And I said, like, it's good. Keep going, right?
Yeah, very strange for me because there's machine translation, and now there's even AI. AI will do it much better.
Well, that's what it is. Machine translation right now with a neural machine translation, because before it used to be statistical and whatever, right? It is basically the cross-section or whatever of AI and the more traditional ways of machine translation. But my view, and mine is not an expert view like Abby's and Gail's, because I haven't used them, in terms of getting my hands that dirty in a long time, is that it does wonders. It has progressed so much, but there are areas like life sciences, for example, and that domain where it is very risky to use it because, one error. Now, if you were to use it properly, process-wise, even in life science, in my opinion, you can use it, but that's a dangerous path to go down that way and try to explain it, to the client, because if you really use machine translation first, but then you have a human properly and thoroughly review the output and make any corrections and make it as good as a human, which is called, post-editing effort.
Yeah.
Right? MTPE, that's an acronym that is very well known in the industry. It's machine translation post-edit, right? If you do that right, then there's no issue. But the reality is that translators, people get sloppy, in the speed of things, trying to deliver something fast. The reality of it is that, when they do post-editing, they don't necessarily do it the way it's supposed to be done. And I don't know, there's some kind of mindset and psychological factors as well, Andrew, that you might know better. Sometimes translators go like, they don't feel like they are really creating because it's an art, right? When you give them an empty output and ask them just go and edit it, they go like, I'd like to just translate myself from scratch, right?
Yeah, it's different. It's really a different skill set.
Yeah.
But
Okay, well, this is about the translation memory which Trados maintains, which Google also has translation memory inside of it, which is the dictionary of any language to translate basically. But this remembers phrases like Dr. Matt Bernd Nudek.
It basically is the same idea. You can remember full sentences as well. This is just more specific and more curated.
Okay.
This is fully done by a human, right? Now, we don't know. Somebody says, I translated myself. I can be a translator. I can go and use Google Translator and pretend to have done it myself. There is no avoiding sometimes lack of compliance or somebody going rogue, but these are done by humans versus the machine doing it. And what you're saying, Gregor, I think refers to the fact that, I know Google was spending maybe close to 100 million in translations a year before. So the translation they do for their own products, of course they build a translation memory. But on top of that, they have also the machine translation, which could pull from all these memories, but at the same time, there might not be a match at all, but still use the neural MT methodology to translate. And you have a lot of word processes or workflows in many companies that say, okay, first order of business is my new content that I need to translate, run it through the translation memory. That is, the translation is done by humans. And give me anything that you find there that is, let's say, 85% and above match, right? For anything that you don't find at 85% and above match, then machine translate it for me and give it as machine translated. And then you go like, okay, have a human translator do the post-edit. And they know that this is from a memory, this is from machine translation.
Well, in fact, we can do that in Trados. It has integrated MT.
Yeah, but we're not doing it. We can, but we can't, right? We are not allowed.
What then line 50 here, why on the right side it says FS as small letters and it's 99% because of it? What's wrong? Is that one of the errors?
So this one is I opened this in review mode, which means it did not have these changes when I opened it. These are changes I made as a part of a test. So I don't know why it was 99%. It's possible it was bold in the memory, and it's not bold here. It's also possible you can have penalty points for various different things, like if you're using several translation memories and one of them was generated by machine translation, you can say, all right, it can never be 100% match. It has to be a 99% match. In other words, we do a 1-point penalty so that it flags it and we know to look at it. But I'm guessing in this case, since we don't have that scenario, it's just because of the formatting in the way it was in the memory, even though it doesn't look bold here, there might be something.
You change it to lowercase, the last FS letters, right?
Right, so because I'm in review mode, so I'm saying assess quality, which is one of their review modes, it automatically tracks the changes. So when I do any sort of review, it will track the changes. So I just did that.
That's a change that Abby's doing, playing around with it.
Oh, okay. Okay, what's the error? Like you're calculating number of errors.
So after I make the changes, they're all listed here in this panel at the bottom, and I go through them one by one, and I categorize them, and I manually say what the severity is, or so I can do that down here, or as I showed you before, I could go to right-click, do Edit TQA, and I can change these here. I can put in a comment and click OK. So that is the process that is different in this phase. The assessing quality phase is adding these categories, severities, and any comments.
Okay.
And then that is reflected later on the scorecard here. So the severities, it shows the number of times that I, for each category, applied the severities of different classifications. So also does the point scoring here.
Severity is how bad the errors are.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And one problem we have is that Trados does not calculate the final score the same way we do. We automatically fail anything that has a critical error, but the Trados calculation for pass-fail, which it does on its scorecard, doesn't take that into account. So in the plugin, if you hit the plugin, find a way to calculate the pass-fail and the score, we do have a different formula for that.
Okay. So you're there. You have a formula for that.
Yes.
That's the Excel. That's not a macros for. That's Excel formula. I saw it somewhere in.
Right. So one of my macros put the formula in. This is it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's it. Okay. I'll have to look at it.
Yep. So maybe if you could generate a few more flavors, which emits different kind of Excel documents, at least we can have a look at it.
I will do that.
Yeah.
And also I'm going to put a link to Reports Viewer Plus information.
Yep. Yep. So we can just see if we can get their code or whatever, what they have done, or maybe, I don't know. So if there's some contact or something that...
There was a
Okay.
name.
Yeah, we saw, okay, okay.
I think there is a name somewhere in there.
Okay.
I will try to find it though if you can't.
Right, somebody, okay, fine, installation of the plugin, reports viewer.
Yeah, I will try to do that.
Scorecard pass fail will depend on that entry that it will use that formula, and you want to override Trados pass fail entry using that formula in add-on.
Right.
Okay.
So there is a way to do it. You can paste this formula here. Every time we generate the scorecard, we could paste that formula into the evaluation comment field. And then when we save as the scorecard as Excel, it would give us the pass fail, but that would require the auditor to paste that formula properly for every time they audit, and I don't think we can count on that. So they could copy it and paste it at this point when they're saying complete review. If you paste the formula here, and then we click finish, then it would, I'm not going to go through the whole process, then it would give us the true pass fail.
Okay.
Only in Excel. Any of the other formats, you would just see the formula.
Okay.
So on the report, it would be, this is how it looks in Trados. It would be, where are we? It would be right here in this field would be the formula. Previously, I had typed my name there, but that's where the formula would be. And then when we do save as Excel, why is that not an option here? Am I in the wrong report? I'm in the wrong report. That's weird. It's not giving me that option right now. It must be in the wrong mode. But save as Excel, then the formula would run. But that's not a good solution. It would be great if you guys can find a way to calculate the score correctly.
Anything else, Gregory?
So you're gonna send us the combined macros, or and also the package which has translation memories in it, so we can open it and it creates the hierarchy of folders, right?
Yes, and I will. I'll need a little bit of time to create several different sample cases for you to work on, and then to create packages and send them to you. So it'll be sometime this afternoon.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
time, for the detailed explanation of how your process works. It was great to know something new.
Yeah. It's
We need to digest it.
yeah, for sure. And feel free to ping me on
Sure.
Teams or whatever you need to do if you have questions along the way.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Gregory and Anant and Abby. Of course, absolutely have put so much great effort into it, and Gal as well, so really appreciate the collaboration.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.